So about a year ago, I was having a conversation with my dad that kind of turned into an argument. It was about how the military, specifically the Marines, were now letting women into all aspects of their fields, which means women were now being allowed to go onto the front lines. They were now allowed to be in aviation. It did not exclude women at all. But when I said, "Oh, like that's really cool," my dad responded with, "No, it's not." And so that got me thinking, like, why is that not okay? So he proceeded to say, like, no, I don't want to be seeing women blown up on the field. And just to prove him wrong at that time, I proceeded to pick up my 220-pound, 6'3" friend, which is a guy, and I decided to carry him around my house a couple of times and be like, see, women can do it too. So, I am Kathleen Dutchin, and today I want to talk to you about how this is our fight too, and why women belong in the military just as much as men. So I'm going to be referencing G.I. Jane a lot, and it's one of my favorite movies, and I think it's just like a really good reference to go to because it gives a good visual of what I'm talking about. So the first quote I'm going to use is, "How am I supposed to fit in with these guys when you've got me set up as an outsider?" And I think that's a really strong point, because how do they expect women to act the same, be the same as men in the military when we don't even get the same treatment? So my first topic is going to be over the physical limitations, which is what a lot of guys seem to argue with, is about how, oh, well, women aren't as strong as men. And yeah, we might not be able to be as strong as men, but that does not mean we are not strong. Also, with more women being in the military, that means more women can help each other, and then, you know, like, we don't really need to necessarily focus on women always needing to pull men out of holes or anything like that. Plus, the military is all about teamwork, so you should be working together. On top of that, there's technology to help you lift your comrades and carry them, and, you know, if you can pick someone up and throw them over your shoulders like they train you to do in boot camp, then you should be able to do it out on the field. And the technology aspect came from Trudy Mercadal. She has a PhD in comparative studies, specifically in gender studies. And then also with the physical limitations of being a woman, we tend to be the more expensive gender, just because of what we have to do as to maintain our body. But I think it's kind of cool because now there is a self-diagnosis and treatment kit that you can take onto the field with you, and if you start feeling any kind of funky thing, then you could go ahead, diagnose yourself, and then treat yourself, which I think could also be helpful in third world countries or even like poverty-ridden cities in America. And that is Ryan Wegner. She has a PhD and she teaches at OSU. So my second point is that women tend to feel like they need to be more masculine to fit in with the men in the military, and that seems to be true in the past, but now with more women being in the military, I think it's becoming less of an issue. But here you can see, this is from G.I. Jane. She's actually shaving her head. This was her breaking point when she hit the moment of, I fit in with you guys, I am one of you guys. And I thought it's a really good scene. Also, she was paid $1 million to shave her hair off. It also shows that in a study done in the Middle East, they thought women would struggle with the Middle Eastern culture because of how they treat women in the Middle East. But it actually showed that when the Middle Eastern men saw the women in uniform, they stepped up and they were like, oh, if you want to act like a man, we're going to treat you like a man. So that kind of responded with that, and it basically proved that to be a moot point. And then it actually showed that women are better with dealing with civilians. Like when they go into the Middle East, they tended to the families better than a lot of the men did, and they were better able to communicate with the civilians. And that's from Not a Woman But a Soldier. That was an article. And even though they communicate better with the civilians, then it's kind of getting them to step away from the caregiver stereotype, which is kind of a cool thing because we get to finally explore different possibilities. And then my third point is the sexual harassment that you always hear about in the military. So of course people think, oh, with more women going into the military, yeah, there's going to be more sexual harassment. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think if you use like statistics and you do ratios, I think it's just more so that more women are standing up for themselves instead of them saying like, oh, like there are so many women in there, that means they're going to be sexually harassed. No, I think it's just more, I'm going to speak up for myself because I have a right to be here too, and I have a right to be treated with respect. And then the brief report that I have in my sources, that actually looks at past sexual harassment reports, and they're looking for better education instead of just sitting all these men down in a room after they've been training all day, after they're tired, and they finally get to sit where they're probably going to fall asleep. They're looking for better education on how to respect your coworkers, because it is still a coworker kind of environment, and you got to work with these people to be your teammates. And I'm going to leave you with a quote from G.I. Jane again, and it is, "So stopping to save a man makes you a hero, but if a man stops to help a woman, he's gone soft," which I think is a really strong quote from that movie, because it proves that like even though a man stops to help a man, showing the same kind of respect and care for a woman makes you look weak, and I think that is ridiculous. So that is why I believe that women belong to be in the military too. Thank you.